So, Katie, here's
Hello,
your porno coming.
UCR. What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to the deep. Oh, well, not really in Texas, because otherwise we'd be like shot at or something. But that's okay.
Well,
Welcome
you guys would be fine. I'd be screwed.
Well, I don't know. Judging by the
well.
way of the world at the moment, you never know. 1979 might have been a safer time for everyone involved. But as I was saying before I was segued away from myself, welcome to another episode of Uncensored Horror. A live episode, which we haven't done in a hot minute. Yeah, we're here. We very much unplanned, but it's okay. We're here. We can talk. We're good at talking. We do the talking thing a lot. So we decided to tackle something new, something different, something modern. We've done a lot of retro horror and stuff that made us horror fans, or that has new sequels coming out, etc., etc. But we have very rarely touched on brand new properties that are fresh and are sporting franchises of their own. But today we are making an exception. Today we are trying something new, and we're jumping all the way back to 2022. Oh my god, so long ago. We today are reviewing Ty West's slasher X. Now, Katie, you can go first. When did you first see/hear about this movie?
Well, first things first, I'm a fucking sex symbol. Second thing, I first heard about it when it was first announced, because I'm a huge Ty West fan. Been following him since House of the Devil, which is probably one of my favorite films by him. So when this was announced, I was pretty excited about it. But unfortunately, not my favorite. But we'll get into that later. However, I think this was really kind of unexpected for a lot of the actors in the film. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised by their performances. And it's I'm not sure how to describe it. However, I think it's an underperformance on Ty West's part, but it's a really, really, really fun kind of surprise for people who like Brittany Snow or Kid Cudi, or even like Jenna Ortega shows up and you're like, holy shit, it's Jenna Ortega. Especially when you find out what the plot's about.
Before she was Jenna
Wednesday Addams.
Jenna Ortega. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before she was who she was now. That's all happened very, very quickly as part of
But the fun part was watching the movie and you figuring out what everything's about. Then all of a sudden, oh hey, that's Brittany Snow and she's naked. Didn't really see that one coming, even though it's about porn stars, but still.
Yeah, well. Now, did you see this in cinemas? Did you see this?
I did not get to see it in cinemas, unfortunately. I had to see it at home, as I see most of my films, because most of the movies I get to see in cinemas are kid related these days.
Unless I send you on a forced assignment to see
Unless
Scream
the
6.
boss man goes, you need a mental health day, go see a movie.
You must see this movie. Interesting. All right, Luke, what about you? When did you know about this movie? Did you hear about it, or did you just stumble upon it?
Look, I had heard about it, but I didn't have any interest in it. I was like, oh, it'll be crappy because I heard it was kind of like a comedy as well. But there is comedy in this film, but it's certainly not a comedy. It's I'd say it's not funny. It's like a Scream kind of, but when I heard about it though, I wasn't interested, and then I sat down one night and I saw it on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give it a go, and I ended up loving it. So, but we'll talk more about that.
Cool. Yeah, so I think in general, especially in Australia, it only got a very release window from what I remember. It was for a while there in 2022 when like movies were kind of coming back and all that kind of thing. We had these like special release horror nights that they would do. They would do like a limited release of movies, and I'm pretty sure X was one of those ones because I couldn't see it anywhere like when I went to look for it. And it was kind of one of those ones that got lost in the shuffle. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then we ended up in America and all that kind of stuff. And I think the main focus of that year was Halloween, and I think everything else fell to the bottom of the pile. But yeah, I finally saw it like less than 48 hours ago now. I finally gave it a watch, and I've got to say I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know that I'll tell you what I think the problem is at the end of the show, but I was happy that I enjoyed it because it takes a lot for me to get invested in movies these days. I find it harder and harder to, especially like horror, unless it's like got great actors straight up. I'm just like, oh, I've seen it all. Like I've seen this. I know what's happening, and I think that's part of the strength of this as well, that it has that familiarity. But look, let's do the big spoiler warning. It's 2020. Look, as long ago as this seems, this franchise has really just sprung out of nowhere super quickly, which is awesome for Ty West and the actors involved. Like Mia Goth's just like, well, I'm working for the rest of my life, so it's all good. She's a busy girl. But for X to be out and then for a sequel to come out so quickly afterwards, and then the reason why we're actually doing this now is that the third sequel has been announced that it's coming. Maxxxine is due out this year, so this has become a trilogy in the space of like 18 months, which is super rare / exciting, I guess. If you've got that lightning in a bottle moment, you kind of grab onto it because this is kind of revived the slasher a little bit, which is cute. But again, well, I digress. This is the spoiler warning. If you have not seen X from 2022 yet, there will be spoilers, and it will kind of affect the rest of how you view the franchise as it unfolds. So if you haven't seen it yet, please just pause the podcast and then come back and give us your 2 cents as well. So we'll talk about it. X is, I would guess you call it an homage. It feels very reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Friday the 13th. It's like an homage to these late 70s slasher movies that take the big city mice into the country, and as two worlds collide, modern day America and, you know, the good old boys of the heartland of America collide, and, you know, blood is shed out at that point. So I think that's a pretty good analysis so far, right, Katie?
Well, I mean, you start out in like a kind of small, I'd say they're in Florida, wouldn't you?
It does look Floridian. It does look Floridian,
but they're.
But it says it's rural Texas, so they could be somewhere like they end up in rural Texas. So I don't know if they're driving from Florida to Texas.
I mean, there's reference to a bayou, so like when it says a bayou burlesque on the side of the building when they're leaving. So it is a small town. They're leaving small town. Well, they're leaving a city or a small city, and they're going way out into the country. And I can't remember when I rewatched it, I can't remember if I missed why they're going into the middle of bumfuck nowhere to film this. Is it?
Well, it's because it's it's cheaper and it's
Cheaper?
away from
Okay.
prying eyes. They won't get, caught out and
Okay.
fined and all that kind of stuff. Because that's what he says. He got the house for cheap, and it's private, and no one will see what they're doing because this is the underlying like, I guess, motivation of the movie is that one of them at least works at the strip club. They work at the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them, I guess both the girls work at the strip club, and they're going to try to get into the burgeoning home video craze,
Right.
and of porn. And it's very. I agree with you. In 2022, it seems very weird to make this the focus of a movie. Like it's like a tongue-in-cheek kind of look at the exploitation-ish version, because there's some stereotypes that prove true in this movie, which is one of the funniest parts of the movie, I must say. I'll talk about it when we get there, and I literally went, bah! And laughed out loud. It's been a while since the movie's made me do that.
And I'm like very sex positive. I'm very like, oh, they're just body parts or whatever. But even I'm just kind of like, oh, it's kind of like a lot of like nudity. It's a lot of like very graphic, and it really does. And it really does feel like, well, it's a lot of female nudity. It's all female nudity, really, except Kid Cudi's butt. Which, by the way, Kid Cudi, very nice. Touch. Nice touch.
It's definitely. But I think it's definitely a NC-17 version of a porn movie. It's like you see boobs, you know what I mean? There's boobs. Like,
right,
if you're coming in expecting it to be like, I don't know, the Rob Zombie version where you'd probably see like meth in the corner and everyone's like that's not what's happening.
I mean, I was happy to hear I can't really hear you, Luke.
Yeah, we can't really hear you.
I was thinking everyone would be battling with their hepatitis C.
Probably.
I mean, I was happy to hear that Brittany Snow had a really positive experience with it. She felt good about filming. She felt good about her body, and she felt confident and comfortable. So that makes me feel better about it.
Oh, she looks great.
She looks fantastic, and I'm happy to hear that it was a good experience. And I hear nothing but good things about Ty West, so I'm glad it was a positive experience. But it's still, anytime you have like females and nudity on a horror set, you always kind of feel it's a little exploitive. And and
I think that this movie was turning that on its head, though. Like, it was exploitative plus. Like, it was almost, it was like tongue in cheek of exploitative films.
But the female characters also were very empowered in the film too. Like those women definitely were in control of the situation, and you could tell.
So let's talk about them. So our cast is obviously our lead is Maxxxine, Mia Goth, and she is the star. She's the star of the show. She is, I think, it's like the lead dancer or something at the club. I think it's implied. And her boyfriend Wayne, who I did not realize is Martin Henderson. Now, if you're Australian, you'll know Martin Henderson, and it blew my mind. I only realized today that it was him. I'm like, oh, okay. Martin Henderson was actually the male. He was the male lead, I guess, the male lead in the ring. Yeah, the reporter dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was. He's from New Zealand, but he was fairly well known. He had a pretty prolific TV career, and then he went over to the States. So then we've got Barbie Lynn, Brittany Snow. Barbie Lynn, who is doing her best Marilyn Monroe. That's her look, right? She's just like Jack in the Marilyn.
The 70s looks very good on her. Like, that is a good look for her. Like, those outfits look fantastic on her. Like,
yeah, definitely.
It suits her. It suits her very well.
Jackson, of course, Kid Cudi, who is the male the male
so
star.
many people didn't realize that was Kid Cudi.
I didn't either. Look, I to be honest, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, he is too. That's okay. I know what's happening now. We have amateur director RJ, who's like the typical screen nerd that we have in these kind of movies, and his girlfriend Lorraine, who is
Church mouse.
modern it girl Jenna Ortega, which she just seems to have gotten really, really fortunate with everything just going bloop, 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 and falling in line in release schedule for her to just become this major star for over pretty much overnight. Let's look at like sometimes you got to be down in the trenches, but she's had some fairly good. I think this is a smart move on her part to do this early. Then she's now branched out. She's a certified scream queen, I think now.
She's got a scream,
and she has a
on
good
her.
scream
She's
on
got
her.
a real good scream. I mean,
She does have a good scream on her.
I don't know what you guys like have as like a still for your like streaming service, but it's her. Like it's her screaming for me on Showtime,
Yeah.
and she has got a good scream. Yeah,
Yeah, she's done. Yeah, she's definitely got the lungs for it. And I think it was nice to actually see her as part of an ensemble cast where she wasn't kind of pushed as the lead. Like obviously in Wednesday, she is Wednesday, so she's the lead of the show. In Scream, she's got that relationship with Melissa Barrera where she's the other sister, so she's obviously going to be the lead and be pushed that way. But it's nice to see her fit in and not have to kind of have the moment, because I think that she's stronger here.
I knew who she was, and I thought that she was going to be pushed as the main character. I thought she was going to be the final girl, but we'll talk about it again.
Yeah.
Compared to her performance in Scream, she was a lot more. I think her performance in the Scream movies is a lot more subdued than in here, but comparatively, she has a lot more trauma to endure in this one than in Scream. I mean, granted, she's being chased by killers in both, but it's a lot more gruesome in this one.
Oh, I don't know. I think Scream's starting to push it up there.
I mean, this Scream 6 was pretty gruesome, but when you think of the deaths in this one compared to the Scream movies, yeah.
So they're in the stereotypical 70s van driving through Texas. Like I got big, and I think it's intentional. Big Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes.
It was very much intentional.
Super intentional, just even from the way it was shot. It's just like, this is intentional. And the more that they were in the environment, I got this weird Friday the 13th vibe as well, because it was a bit whodunit-ish, like the original Friday the 13th, where we didn't know who the killer was. And we were like, oh,
very much intentional. Ty West is
it's all,
horror nut.
He's a horror fan. And it's just, that was comforting, I think, in a way that when you're trying to set up a new franchise, you kind of need to be. You kind of need to have a little bit of familiarity for people to go, I can soak in this to find out what's really going on, because I feel at home in this environment. We know what 1970s Texas is, and what like late 1970s camping is. We know the ruralness. We get that. We know that feeling, and so they're there to make a porno. They have a farmhouse that they are hiring. They meet Howard, who is that's the makeup. Hopefully, because he is one ugly son of a bitch. As is quoted in the movie. It's like, it's off-putting. It gives me like strong grandpa from Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes if he was like a bit more mobile and not a corpse. But that's okay. Well, not really a corpse because he drinks blood, but we're splitting hairs here, literally. Splitting hairs. So they live in a guest house that is set up from the Civil War. Like that house is still going strong. Looks very very sturdy for an aged old house, but very cool, very of the moment, of the era, of the scene. Like there wasn't any weird anachronisms. It felt 70s. It felt that like late 70s vibe with the dirty kind of, shabbiness, which I appreciate. I like being in the moment. The group so they pretty much get straight into it. There's no beating around the bush, as it were. As Bobby Lynn and Jackson get straight into it, and
well, Jackson gets straight into Bobby.
Yeah, they are. They are warned to not go near the house. It's like, okay, cool. Because as Maxxxine is getting her stuff from the car, she sees someone looking down at her from the window. And yeah, weird eye contact moment. How long did it take? Because I didn't read anything about it. Or did you know? How long did it take you to realize that was Mia Goth?
I didn't know until after I watched the movie.
Oh, pretty much immediately. You could see it in their face.
I don't know if I watched it's because I watched it late at night. I was kind of when they were together, that was like, and she was talking. Well, this is for later, but when they were talking, when they had their scene together, I was like, that's interesting. But we get the first encounter with the weird old lady who we know comes to learn her name is Pearl. Pearl. And this is I didn't expect this scene, but as is always in the 70s, when there's a body of water and who wears just overalls? Wouldn't her nips be chafed like no one's business?
You don't. It was for
it would rub other places too. It would not be.
No, you don't. It was for the movie.
Yeah, but she was happily doing it, this is the first scene where I was like, oh, I don't know if I like it. I didn't know there were fucking alligators in Texas.
Oh hell yeah! In swamps like that, they're everywhere, man.
That thing was, and the way that they shot it at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's only little, and then it starts coming. I was like, that thing's fucking huge, and it didn't look like an alligator; it looked like a crocodile, right, Luke?
Yes, it was definitely croc territory. We're talking
that looked like a crocodile. That was fucking huge, and we figure out why later on. I was like, why is this thing so big if it lives on the farm? And then never mind. We find out later on why it's so big, but that actually gave me a little bit of tension because not only do you have, Pearl looking, but you have Mia Goth just chilling. Lovely aerial shot, by the way. Some beautiful cinematography moments in this movie. That crocodile, and it didn't look real at all, but it gave me tension. I was like, oh, why am I feeling tension about this? It's not okay.
It was very Jaws, wasn't it, at that moment? Like a little bit like the build up.
Yeah, kind of. It was that fake out moment where you're like, where is the real danger? Who can say?
And at this point, I thought General Ortega was going to be the star, so I thought, well, she's dead from the croc.
Yeah,
the alligator.
I thought she was going to have, like a Friday the 13th girl kind of moment, Yeah.
Nope.
So this is where we get the meeting between Maxxxine and Pearl, and weird old lady, Oh, look, a very own weird old lady. Hi, Vera.
Hi, Mom.
So, we I don't know that I'd go inside. We have watched these movies, and I know that they're of the time, so they wouldn't have seen anything like this. But you don't go into the creepy country house in the 70s.
I don't know. I go
past that.
I go into Vera's house all the time, and she doesn't do anything to me.
Yeah, but Vera doesn't live in Texas. Okay, Vera's not of the Texan.
No, Vera is not a Texan. No.
You don't go through that screen door. It's not going to end well for anyone. Because throughout the movie, we're getting this, and this is his obviously commentary, societal commentary. That was hard to say today. On old school American values and the Bible thumping Christianness. Well, there's no chainsaws in this V, so you're safe. There's no, we don't know that much about Vera's past.
Just your
She was an
sharp
actress.
humor, Vera. Just your sharp humor.
So we get the contrast between, you know, these modern liberated people who want to make the sex film and all that kind of thing. The Bible bashing is constant on the radio, on the TV, just kind of reinforcing that cultural collide. And then they've got this frozen in time, the couple that look like they have been around since the Civil War. like how old are these people supposed to be? Like, how old do you think they're supposed to be?
80s.
I'm sure. Yeah,
In the
they have
80s.
to be the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we get a little.
in their 80s too. Like they had a rough, like they were.
Well, as we'll discover as we progress in the series. So Pearl and Maxxxine have their encounter. I can't imagine that lemonade tasted good. She was like,
Well, she slammed
chugging
it.
that lemonade. Yeah, she slammed it. And she discovers that, you know, I think Pearl has led a very unfulfilled, unhappy life. Which this is all we know of Pearl at this point. So it's very.
I felt when they were doing that to Pearl, I was like, "This is me."
You're going to be
You
a crazy
think
old
you're going to
lady in a
be in
farm.
your 80s and still got that urge?
Katie, I'm not going to make it to 80, honey. We know this.
You're not going to make it to 80.
But Pearl's tells Maxxxine about how she was, you know, how she dreamed of being a star and how she was something. She always thought she was destined for something more and something special. She has a special face like Maxxine's. Hello. Now we know why, because it's the same actress. But anyway, and this kind of weird because you can see that like Pearl's got this weird vibe, like she's trying to touch her and stuff, and she freaks out a little bit. But all of that kind of gets broken down straight away when Howard comes home. I don't know why we're scared of Howard, but he's a scary looking dude. So I'm
Because he's a white male in Texas. I'd be afraid of him too.
Well, we've already had the gun fake out where it's like, oh, it's not loaded. So I was like, we've had the gun fake out, so we know. Well, he says it isn't loaded, so
Wouldn't trust him still.
Wouldn't trust him still. So we get out. Maxxxine has her moment where they shoot her scene with Jackson, and you know that's all revelations and whatnot.
In that scene,
sorry,
What was that?
did she do some reverse cowgirl in her scene?
Oh, she did something, but.
I just want to. I didn't think her scene was that spectacular, quite honestly. And they're going, "I told you she was something special." It's like,
I know. What was that moment where they come out of the bedroom and it's like, feel how hard my cock is? It's like, wait, what? I got very confused at that moment. I was like,
it's like,
what are we watching?
I know they're supposed to fake it, and I know they're supposed to be exaggerated, but I gotta tell you, I think Brittany gave a better performance.
And she says that. I think that she's the actress out of the pair because like as she shows off, she's like, oh, like
Right.
you know.
But apparently, Maxxxine is something special, and I can see why he left his wife for you. Like, don't kiss her ass. She wasn't that great.
She might not be the actress, but she's got something about her which I think is obviously going to be expanded upon as we go through.
She made eye contact with the camera.
Thing. Yeah.
Clearly, I don't got it.
we've got a big
Did you stick to the nugget couch, Katie?
Now your couch is retired. My days are over.
So we get an interesting comment on voyeurism. Obviously, Jenna Ortega's character is up in she's church mouse. She's the one who thinks that this is all a bit disgusting and below her and all that kind of thing. But the more she's exposed to it,
moisten her a little bit. loosen her up.
Yeah, she said I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting comment on repression and, widening your sexual proclivities and desires and ideas. But we've also got in the background of this scene good old Pearl coming in for a sneaky peek about what's going on. And that's kind of creepy. But,
That was really good. That was, grandma
Yeah,
watching young one play. I was like, ugh.
So as night falls, as normally does in this movie, shit hits the fan. RJ is brutally upset when Lorraine decides to be all women's lib and go, I want to do a scene in the movie. She wants to be part of it. She gets her wish. But I think it's interesting that she's the only one we didn't see the sex scene with. But how old was she when she filmed this movie?
That's what I was kind of wondering too, because she kept her bra on, she kept her underwear on, and all you see is the back, and then they like zoom immediately out. So she had to be she had to be young.
Because she's not an old she's not that. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
She's not that old.
Okay, so she was born.
She's 20. So she would have been 18.
So she was
like
legal.
Just 18.
So, so they
but
were
still
just
pushing, playing it safe with her, I guess,
which is smart, but
it was interesting that she's the only one that didn't get the old tit shot. But you gotta have a Jamie Lee, right? And
but you gotta appreciate that though, that they're like, okay, you're freshly 18. Yeah. Let's not push it too far.
Yeah, and I think it would have hurt her a little bit, maybe, with her Wednesday and like.
I don't think she'd be Wednesday if she got her boobs out.
oh yeah, she took her top off. She wouldn't be Wednesday for sure. But also, I think if she had taken her top off, then I think that probably really would have been completely exploitive. Because again, freshly 18.
And it does give us more. It gives the genre fans a bit more of a misdirect as well, because she's the one that's not showing the goods. She's obviously the final girl. She's the one that's going to survive, right? Because we don't see her. She's not a bad girl, as it were.
But you also... I mean, we don't know that she didn't. You couldn't... It leaves a lot to the imagination, because maybe she did. We just
but the way that it is shown, you know that in Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't do that, so she survives. In Scream,
those are the rules.
Sydney doesn't do that until the end, but she still manages to survive because it's a flip on the head. This is more of an homage, so when you look at that, you're like, oh well, she's obviously going to be the survivor because she's the good girl. These girls that have loose morals, as is in the 70s, are the ones that are going to get punished. But the women are the ones that survive the longest, because RJ has a little mentee B overseeing his girlfriend enjoy sex, probably more than she enjoys it with him, I think is the whole problem. And has a bit of a little breakdown in the showers and decides to leave. As he drives away, he literally nearly runs into Pearl, who's been told not to leave the house, don't leave the house, don't. And, she's got the Jones in for some bones, and because she's ready to hump anything that moves. I think this is a good advertisement for sexuality, and Pearl's after it. She's for anyone that she can get it, and she's just flipped her shit. As soon as he rebuffs her, she goes in. That neck stab came out of nowhere. We love a neck stab. That's the latest thing. I think it's because it's so quick and brief. It's
we were meant to think that she was a demented old lady. Then once she did that, we're like, okay, she's not demented, she's crazy. She's psycho.
No, she knows what she's doing. She has intention. She knows what she's doing. And she goes for the stab, doesn't she? That poor boy's neck, by the end of that, I'm like, oh, It was like
Not much left.
it was like meatloaf, but a very nice shot of, you know, as the blood sprays, it goes over the headlights and turns the whole thing red, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, okay, Ty West, I see.
That was a
I
cool
see
shot.
you. I see you, Ty West. I see what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So RJ is pretty quickly dispensed. Like, you wouldn't think an 80-year-old lady can take someone down so quickly, but, you know, for all the naysayers that say, you know, Mrs. Voorhees couldn't have done this, that, the other, Debbie Salt couldn't have done this, Emma Roberts couldn't have done this,
Oh, but
Amber from
Debbie-
Scream couldn't have done this.
Debbie Salt wasn't as
definitely
old
could.
as Maxxxine. Not
I know,
Maxxxine,
but I think it the
Well,
way that Maxxxine attacks people is appropriate for her age. And
Pearl.
sorry. Pearl. Yeah, we got confused. We both got confused then.
We did. I corrected myself, Pearl.
Yeah. The way that she attacks them is more Mrs. Voorhees style. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of the nature of surprise, and I think that is underrated when it comes to. It's like we are so used to telegraphing stuff when it comes to horror. Like, this is happening, so we know that in 3 minutes after we've had a jump scare and maybe a slight chase scene, something will happen. But I didn't expect her to just go the snap and oh, it's all over, blood everywhere. It's like, okay, cool. I appreciate you. So then, Lorraine notices that RJ is missing and runs into Wayne, which was another effective little jump scare. And they go a searching, they go a walking after midnight and looking for RJ. Martin Henderson, more power to you. And you're like, oh, they're not tiny whiteys, they're tiny greys. But I think it was a nice change in expectation to see the male. You know, it's usually the girls running around going, oh, I'm only in my underwear. What's happening? Oh, but it was a nice little flip on the formula that he was the one walking around in his undies and his skivvies.
Yeah,
Just,
that's very timely for the 70s.
Yeah, they're just walking around, and this was I don't know what it is with nails in feet. I can't.
I can't either. It's like it's so played out, but it's effective.
Every time you see it. Anytime you see feet, it's like,
time.
oh, why are you doing this to me? I don't enjoy it.
There are a few things of body horror that will get me every time.
Eyes
nails in the feet and teeth coming out every time. I just can't do it.
For me, the needle eyes.
The needle pit did.
Yeah, the needle in Saw 2.
Pit.
Yeah.
Hmm?
The needle pit in Saw 2.
Oh, that doesn't bother me that much.
Anything with eyes and fingernails freak me. So when they get dragged along, their fingernails come out. Oh, like that upsets
bother me
me
that much too. But like
teeth,
like getting like
feet.
ripped out or like
nails in
falling
feet.
out. Nails in feet.
Nails in
Can't
feet.
do it.
And
Can't
they
do it.
telegraphed this happening, and this felt so. This felt so Friday the 13th, right? This could be in a Friday the 13th movie. I reckon.
You see it coming a mile away. You're like, oh, he's gonna step on it. He's gonna step on it.
And then he does.
Like, you know it's coming. Like, you can prepare yourself. Like, oh shit, he's gonna step on it.
And it's not even a little. It's all the way in. It's all the way in. It's all the way in, and then he's gonna pull it out. And, oh,
it's like, oh,
yucky,
he's gonna step on it. You have the chance to look away, but you can't. Like,
yeah, it's not.
Like, oh no!
And you kind of felt it. As you stood on it, you felt it.
Then you feel it. And you feel it. Like, oh God, that's so much tetanus. Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, the tetanus.
The tetanus of it all. But he doesn't look. It doesn't really matter because it is not long until he is quickly dispatched while seeing a shadow move outside and then gets a pitchfork to the eyes. It's like, oh damn, that's Swift. Kitty, hey Kitty. So yeah, a quick pitchfork to the eyes for
tetanus.
Wade. Yeah.
Well, they were probably AIDS and they were in porn, so they were probably going to die of AIDS anyway. So tetanus, AIDS.
Why was he going to die of AIDS? He wasn't gay.
You never. It's not just
Well,
a gay disease.
That's true. That's not just a gay disease. You're right. That was very ignorant of me. That was very ignorant of me.
So meanwhile, we have Jenna Ortega, Lorraine. I just can't with Lorraine. It's so 70s. Running into the creeper that is Howard, who's claiming that Pearl has gone missing. So do we think, at this point, that Pearl and Howard have had the conversation that they're going to go on a spree? Or do you think that Howard is simply cleaning up Pearl's mess?
Oh no, he's in on it.
After, we're not going to talk about prequels and stuff like that, but I think he's very much in love with that crazy bitch and trying to keep what she does under wraps.
Oh, he is. No, he's in on it. He's trying to please his woman.
Yeah, so I think it's a little from column A, a little from column B. He lets Lorraine into the house, which is a big warning sign. Anyway, it's like, oh. Then he pulls the, oh, my heart, Carter, can you go downstairs into the basement and get the other flashlight?
Bitch, don't go in the basement.
It is it is meant to be the 70s, so we will give her credit and be like, whatever, bitch. But this is where this was effective. She finds another body. Now, I originally thought this was RJ, but I thought it was
too.
But, someone has been hung and has a fairly long prosthetic penis. I would assume it's prosthetic, unless someone's just been paid to hang there with their dog out.
I was going to say, was that the one from Boogie Nights?
That's been bled out, and we get Jenna screaming. So this is probably the sign of the future. Someone saw this and went, you got a good scream on you, girl. You got a big future. You got a big future, kids. Stick with me. You got a big future, kid. So Howard then, once he's waylaid Pearl, because waylaid, I'm having a problem with names today, Lorraine. So this is where I was still a little bit doubtful whether Howard was in on it for me here, until he went to the house. And I'm like, okay, so he's gone to the house to get help from Jackson. And this was the funny part. Jackson's shadow in the doorway was like, I'll get my skivvies, and there's this big giant fucking dong hanging down. It's like, oh no. Hey Rachel, how you going?
They knew exactly what they were doing with that. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Did. It was funny. It was a cute moment. I was like, hee. So they go on the lookout as well because, ex-military together. I firmly believe that Howard may have fought in the Civil War. Because the more I look at Howard, I'm like, dude, you're old. Like, you're old.
Hey, you haven't seen Pearl yet, have you?
I haven't, no. I'm waiting to see Pearl. Pearl's my next list.
What you're assuming is probably on the money.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, good to know. Good to know. So, they go and looking because Howard says that Pearl has been down by the docks before, and there's the alligator. They acknowledge the alligator. So there's a nice little fake out here. We think that Howard has been got by the alligator because the torch is floating in the water. So Jackson's an all-round good guy. He actually goes in the water looking for the old man. Like, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be going in the water. If you've told me there's an alligator around that's eating things and is a danger to the community, I wouldn't be going anywhere near the water at night time. That's just me. But again, it's the 70s.
And massive dong.
He could have beaten the alligator to death with his stick. Like, dish. But we find a submerged car. And it all starts to make sense now that, maybe these aren't the first visitors to this farm. And maybe now we're starting to understand why the alligator is looking so healthy. He's like, oh, okay. No. Jackson, so Howard very quickly takes care of Jackson. Shotgun to the chest. Oi.
Yeah. He got messed
Oi.
up. Poor guy.
Poor guy. He was just being fed to the resident. You know, it's kind of like Adam's family, actually. You know how they had their pet alligator. It's all coming full circle for Jenna Ortega. She's like, oh, you're an alligator movie? Cool, nice. This is where it gets creepy as well, because Pearl gets into bed with Maxxxine and has like a
wasn't that
covered
creepy scene, like unsettling? The whole bed was just like, oh.
I don't sleep in bed with people normally anymore. Like, I'm like, you gotta go. But having that old lady in there, the blood and the
Now, Luke, having a small child, I know you've had moments where you've woken up and you've had a small person looking at you, like directly in your face, and you weren't expecting that small person there. Yes, this has happened to me before too. Grayson has done this to me before, where he's just like stroking my face. Good morning, Mommy. And I'm like, well, you were not there just a second ago.
Child. I think it's slightly more terrifying when it's a bloody old woman, though. It's like,
it's definitely probably more terrifying when it's a bloody old woman. But the child's about to be, covered in blood because I'm about to punch him in the face because I wasn't expecting him there. And then CPS is going to get called, and it's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah. So we find out that Mia Goth has a good scream on her as well, though. Mia Goth's got a pretty alright scream on her. I was like, oh.
Mia Goth's got a good scream, too.
She's got a good scream. She wakes up.
Okay.
Yeah, she rolled over.
Sorry.
Yeah, she rolled over and saw her, and that's why she started screaming. And as Bobby Lynn comes to try and save her, Pearl rushes past her in the hallway, which was another little bit of a jump scare that I don't know if I was like on edge the night that I watched this. I was like, oh, okay, there's an old lady doing a nudie run. It's like, okay, bye, girl. See you. She got caught out. Paula Rain is having a time in the basement, though. She's having a time, but she gets her little hatchet and she thinks she's ready to go. But the fingers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not okay when you see the bones like poking through after she gets her fingers smashed by Howard. It's like, oh god. Okay, Howard's part of the problem. Howard's definitely part of the problem. It's not okay.
Yep. Howard's in on it.
Yeah. Poor Bobby Lynn tries to. You can tell that she is like, I guess she's the Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. She's like the hooker with the heart of gold. Like that's the character choice they're going for. She's like,
I mean, they have such a sweet little moment. She puts a blanket around her, and she, it's like, oh, my grandma has a tough time
gets
too.
Confused.
And, she's, generally trying to be, empathetic and sweet, and yeah.
No, she gets bitch slapped and then bitch slapped, called a whore, pushed into the lake, and brutally dispatched by the alligator. Oh, yeah. I was like, that was her head. Yeah, that was her head that went that way.
Yeah, justice for Bobby Lynn, man. She didn't deserve it.
Yeah, Bobby Lynn got fucked up. Yeah,
she didn't even have a chance to get fucked up. She just got done.
Oh. And then in probably the most disturbing scene in the movie.
Oh, come on.
Pearl and Howard in the guest house.
Oh,
yeah.
It was not that bad.
Imagine being under that bed, though.
Oh, come on.
Fuck me, Howard. Fuck me.
You know what? Going into that scene, before watching it, I had heard about this, and everyone's just like, oh, old people sex. It was not even that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but still.
The whole context of it was gross. Like, they're literally getting off of killing people.
It's really not that bad. It's truly not that bad. It's truly.
It's not graphic, but it is icky. Let's put it that way.
I didn't really think it was that bad.
It's icky. I don't want to be near that.
I really didn't think it was bad.
Oh, look, more power to her if she can get everything flowing. Like
that's what I'm thinking, man. Like homegirl's old and she still wants to get it in. Like I'm 40 and I gotta work up some effort into it sometimes. girl's double my age, and she's just like,
Yeah, I thought that would have killed Howard because he kept going by heart. Like
yeah,
I thought that's where Howard's gonna die, and that'll like make her snap more.
yeah.
But
I thought
apparently
Howard
not.
was done for.
And I was very surprised that Maxxine got out of the house because normally she'd be like halfway through, knock something off a counter, and it'd be all over. You know what I mean? But she got out and she got to the van. Maybe I wasn't watching closely enough, or it was an edited version. I didn't see RJ's decapitated body. Oh my god, I stroked out. I saw the tires. I didn't see his body. When was it? Okay.
I can't recall. I'd have to look again.
I don't remember seeing it either. Quite honestly,
It might be a different cut of the movie because I watched it on Amazon Prime, so you never know.
I watched it on Showtime, and I don't remember seeing it either. Quite honestly, but I don't remember seeing. Well, I mean, obviously, we're not going to see Bobby Lynn and we're not going to see Jackson, but I don't remember seeing a lot of their bodies again.
So Maxxine, who gave us a little hint earlier that she keeps a gun. Oh, well, actually, Wayne says it. He keeps a gun in the truck as well, just in case. Grabs said pistol and finally starts to do the smart thing because she finds Lorraine. But Lorraine has had a very big change of heart after her experiences in the basement and blames Maxxine for everything. Attempts to run out of the house, but fuck me, dead did she get dispatched quickly by that shotgun. Oh, I liked, especially in this movie, it's nice to see them kind of show a shotgun doing the damage that a shotgun would do with the power that it has. It's like, nah, bam, she gone. And poor Maxxine has to see it. She's like, oh god. And she's like watching. She's this was the kind of horror comedy moment that it's dark comedy, but as they begin to move her body, we realize that she's not as dead as she might be, and that's the thing. That's the thing that kills poor Howard.
Yeah, I love that. Lorraine took him out.
Yeah,
she didn't mean to, and she took him out.
Yeah, Howard is just fucked up, and then Pearl's like, help him, and Max is like, are you fucking insane? Like, what's wrong with you?
I know.
What's wrong with you? So she manages to get the keys to Howard's truck, and we have the showdown with Pearl, but in classic horror movie moment, the gun isn't loaded. It's like, bitch, like you check these things, right? You check these things.
Like, yeah, you pick it up. You check and make sure it's loaded.
You check, especially if people are getting murdered around you. You check these things. Mm-hmm. But again, this is my favorite.
These kids were not the smartest.
We've had threats of we're very worried about Pearl's hip. Pearl's hip. Don't break a hip, Pearl. I laughed out loud. I know it makes me a bad person, but when Pearl tries to take Maxxine out with the shotgun and the recoil throws her backwards out of the house, she breaks her hip. Yep. I shouldn't laugh, but no,
it's meant to be funny.
That's kind of you get what you give, right?
Right. These moments like that, they're meant to be funny.
Like, yeah, we thought her hip was going to go out and Howard's heart was going to go out during their nookie thing. So we got the
payoff. we did get the payoff. It was very cute. So as Maxxine goes to leave, Pearl is begging her for help, and Maxine's like, "Fuck you, lady." And then we see Pearl's true colors. Not before we see what the contents of her skull contains. After she gets reversed over, and her head pops like a very ripe melon. It's like, oh. Damn, I don't think Pearl's coming back for the sequel. Just quietly, and she's like, "Oh, she gone, Pearl's gone," and we see Maxxine drive away.
Maxine's following the rules. Headshot.
Maxine's out. Yeah, you know, she's out. So the following morning, the interesting thing with this, we have had jumps in time. between this. I haven't really gone through them because it's not really consequential to the plot. Like the beginning of the movie is the day after this night, but you know the police arrive. They find out that they were filming something.
Best line of the film.
They have speculation about what's on the film, and the sheriff says, "One goddamn fucked up horror picture." But before this, we have the revelation, and I thought this was cute because I didn't expect it, that the preacher, the televangelist that has been on there talking about the corruption of children and sex and has a daughter that they lost to the world of sin, a daughter named
Maxxxine.
Yes, and that's the end of X. Now, let's discuss how many old lady broken hips do we give it out of 5? Let's go with Luke. We'll go with Luke first. How many old lady broken hips do you give it?
I would give X a solid 4.5 broken hips because I think it set out to be a bit of a play on Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, but have a twist. And I think it hit all the marks and done it very well. And I really love Bobby Lynn. I really wish that we got some more Bobby Lynn, but we won't ever see her again.
Poor Bobby Lynn. It was nice to see her get a singing scene in, though. It was nice to see her get her pitch perfect in. She's like, by the way, I sing. That's a little landslide moment. As you do. All right, Katie, how many broken hips?
I'm going to give it 3 broken hips out of 5.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty disappointed, honestly. I really love Ty West. I love that he loves the genre, but I feel like this one was a little slow. I feel like it took a lot to get to where we needed to go, but once we got there, it took a lot to get to where we needed to, to the kills, to get to the action. I mean, once they started killing these kids off, it didn't stop. But it took pretty much the whole movie to get there. And the plot points were pretty disappointing. It was pretty slow. I feel it was really exploitive. Maybe that makes me prudy. Not sure. I really, really like Brittany Snow in this. I really like Kid Cudi in this. I feel like I feel like this is their movie, even though it's not. I feel like they stole the show. I like Jenna Ortega in this. I also want to point out that Luke is a terrible history major.
He was in the World War.
It was World War I, by the way, not
Yeah.
Civil War.
Yeah.
For Pearl. Anyways, but yeah, 3 stars. It was a pretty solid film. Otherwise, Ty West is a fantastic horror director and writer. And if you are looking for a modern horror director, he is one to check out. And when Steve is done with his reviews, I would say go check out his other stuff. And I've got some recommendations if you guys want to hear them.
Do you think? Okay, so I'm going to go 3.5 for this one. I liked it. I didn't love it, but it takes me a lot these days to love a movie. I really enjoyed the kind of retro homage 1970s stuff. I enjoyed it felt like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Friday the 13th moment. It has those kind of moral storylines, and it plays with them enough. I don't think for a movie called X, I don't think it was graphic enough. But I don't know, for a movie called X and for the hype that it had around it, I don't know that it was, it had enough of that in it. I get what you're saying, Katie. I wonder how much of that is it being a major studio release as opposed to like an independent. Because no matter what we think of A24, and A24 are famous for doing off the cuff weird horror and more independent, like more indie vibe horror. They're becoming a major horror studio now.
Yeah,
that's what they are. Like they're kind of days of being the cool indie. Like we're going to give you the horror movies that the major studios won't are over. Like Blumhouse, you go to for your popcorn movies, and you're like, okay, I know what. A24, you go for the weird stuff, like like Midsummer and Hereditary and all that kind of stuff. You go. That's where you go for
This wasn't even weird.
But it was their attempt, I think, at going a bit more mainstream with the outsider movies of the 70s. So it was like their version of a more socially acceptable Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But even looking back at Texas Chainsaw Massacre now, it's not a violent movie. Like it's the way that the movie is shot that makes it
out. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that it may have been not promoted the right way, this movie.
I get what you're saying there, but you know what the funny thing is that they put out a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that year.
But a modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
A terrible one.
But you know what? If you go back and watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not a bloody movie.
It's not.
The horror in that movie comes from the sound design, from the tension, from the filmmaking.
Oh, absolutely.
Certainly not the acting in some points. But it's only in the 80s that we kind of needed to throw more gore and blood and weirdness at it. It's just, it kind of feels like that answer.
It's shocking for the time, but it's not shocking.
But that's why the first one is a classic and the rest are trash.
Amen.
No,
I'm with you.
I know that people love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I watched the first one because I kind of fell in love with it as a film student, and as a student of film, you want to watch how to make a horror movie without it being so deceptively horror, because everyone goes, "Oh, there's so much blood and guts and done it." It's like, no, there isn't. There isn't. Right. It's just what the movie's suggesting to you and your brain.
It's super. Your brain.
I appreciate that. You don't need to show me people getting disemboweled every 5 seconds for me to be horrified.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's
why I kind of enjoyed the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I think they hit the right. That's when Platinum Dunes was doing the remake stuff, and they hit the right balance of great cast in the remake with the Jessica Biel, like that cast, and the violence that people expected after that, like gore porn early 2000s Saw shit that went on. That was the right balance
with gore and with violence when it's done correctly. It's done
when it's warranted and earned. If it's earned, I will go with it.
Like Adam Green with the Hatchet films, I think he does it so right. I think it's like the right amount of gore. I think it's the right amount of blood, but he also throws some humor in it, and I think he does it so well. And I think I think he brought back like the slasher. I think he revitalized it, and he's another one of these modern directors that I love, that I will always hype up, and that I'm always excited to see what he does. He's another one of those guys that I just.
Well, there's definitely more coming from Ty West, because as this movie blew up, and it did blow up on a budget of $1 million, it passed the $15 billion mark. So that's a hit. And we didn't realize how ready Ty West was, because literally months, if not a month after X was out, we had the revelation that Pearl was coming. So there is another review coming up very soon. Pearl, which is the origin story. It's a prequel starring Mia Goth as young Pearl, and we figure out what had happened, what happened to get her to the point where she is in this movie. And as I said at the top of this show, the sequel to X, Maxxxine, is headed this way very, very soon. Judging from what I've seen of Maxxxine and the way that they're promoting it, it's going to be very much a take on the 80s and kind of that. I think it's going to be like a modern day, like, you know, when, like one of Luke's favorite movies, Debbie Dovestyle's The Next Generation. Maxxxine being like the Linda, the deep throat kind of, you know, iconic snuff film actress, and she's going to Hollywood. I'm assuming that Maxxine's going to be like in seedy LA. That's what the vibe I'm getting.
And they've got such a great cast.
Yeah, there's a great cast in Maxxxine. So there will be more review. The reason why we did this is because the Maxxxine cast. I had this brewing in the background. I'm like, oh, we should do it. And then we needed a show for today. I'm like, hey, we've all seen it now. Let's do it. Okay, cool. Nothing like the last minute, but that's what we do here.
I mean, Ty West has got some other great films. I mean, go check out House of the Devil. Go check out The Innkeepers. Go check out The Sacrament.
Innkeepers is good. Yeah.
Innkeepers is fantastic.
If you like tension. Do you like tension?
If you like the feel of a old school, like it's back in the day in the 70s vibe, that's House of the Devil. Innkeepers is a ghost story. The Sacrament is a found footage film. Ty West is awesome. Go check out his stuff. Definitely support.
So it's nice to see, you know, the resurgence of the modern slasher. I mean, with Scream dominating the box office like nobody ever thought it would again. I think slashers we're going into another slasher era, kids, and it's nice to see something other than a major franchise. Well, it's a franchise now. It's kind of grabbing some attention. So more to come from Uncensored Horror and from Texas and all that kind of stuff. So we will see you some point in the future with our review of Pearl. But until then, you know, stay away from alligators in ponds, guys. That's all I gotta say. Thanks for joining me, Luke. Thanks for joining me, Katie. We will see you again soon on Uncensored Horror. Keep it creepy.